Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. My name is Geneva, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts to talk about the challenge episode 9, the finale part 2. Carrie, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you very much. We got this 3-day weekend. This is where I thrive as a human being, that extra day off. So I'm loving getting to start it talking about the challenge.
And Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's even earlier here in Mountain Time, but I'm awake, ready to go. I just watched the episode again, and I'm curious to hear what y'all think about it.
It is definitely quite a crazy one, that's for sure. Unfortunately, there was a lot of things that I don't think we wanted to see as viewers, but for some reason, producers think that we really want to see people, throwing up and stuff like that. I don't know why they still think that. I know part of it has to do with they want to make them work hard for the money, but also they don't need to show us the extent that they show us. Right, Jason?
I completely agree. And I know we spoke about this a few weeks ago that the host, TJ Lavin, said he runs these finals. And I thought to myself when watching it, does he run the gross food eating part? Is he puking trying to eat this, barbecue or hot dogs on the grill, as Yes called it? I shout out Memorial Day weekend. I mean, he knew exactly when it would air.
Perfect timing. Definitely perfect timing. Carrie, what were your thoughts on that in a general? Because obviously we're not going to talk too much about it. So we're just getting it out here just because it was disgusting.
I want anyone who enjoys seeing the gross eating segments to @ me on Twitter so we can have a conversation about this, because I don't understand you as a human. What do you do for your real life? What has shaped you to enjoy these types of experiences? Because this isn't for me. I don't like throwing up. I don't want to watch people throw up. It's not enjoyable. There's got to be better things we can fill this with. And working hard for the money, there's other ways. You're on a mountain. Make people run sprints up and down hills or something. They're going to throw up from that. But at least it's not we know it's going to happen. It might just happen. There's got to be ways you can do this that are not where we know it's just worth fast forwarding through. However, like you said, Jason, Yes was oh, it's just a picnic. Here we go. This finally food. I'm here to eat and enjoy. Can I get the wine that pairs best with this, please? What the hell?
And Alton also said, this is delicious.
Yeah, he's I'm treating it like it's a delicacy.
Yeah, something funny that I noticed just 30 minutes ago when I heard this was, someone say, do we have any barbecue sauce? And I don't know if y'all caught that. I wasn't sure who said it. It cracked me up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was too funny. And then just saying hello to one of our dear friends.
Fredo.
Hi.
He's great.
Love you. Yeah, so generally we kind of left on a cliffhanger where we did see, you have a lot of the grouped pairs that were still going on that trek together, and Darrell and Kellyanne were together. And essentially, Darrell was having some, difficulties with that pepper and digesting, which understandably so. I don't think I would have handled that super well. And the fact that, they had to keep at it after that, it was terrible. And I could clearly see that people were struggling, but she was just he doesn't need a medic. He doesn't need anything. He's fine. He needs to keep going.
Good for Kellyanne. And I loved how she's dude, we get cramps that are probably just as bad, if not worse. Get the fuck up and go. Good on Kellyanne, because men don't get it. So there's worked. Even women that don't get it. But yeah, it worked. You're absolutely correct. I loved when she was oh my God, stop. Just go. Just get up. Just get up.
And Darrell complimented her, and he said he wouldn't have finished that without her yelling, come on, come on, come on.
She really used
so annoyed, though, if I were in his position, I'd be I'm literally dying right now, and all you can tell me is come on. Don't you care about my life rather than just this money? But obviously they're in a competition. But also Kellyanne's just so obsessed. She's with I don't know how many times she mentions how many times she's come in first place. That was the one thing I was like, okay, I think we get it. And I understand that you're like proud of this. And I think this is an accomplishment. But I just feel like that's what we heard from her mostly in this episode.
Mm-hmm. And I know Darrell has been complimented so much, both on Double Agents and this season, for being an encouraging partner, someone that, is great to work with. And maybe Kellyanne was trying to, exude that vibe and motivate Darrell like he's there for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it wasn't the best delivery, it did have the best outcome because they did come in first, as Kellyanne would not let us forget.
I think part of it for her is like, she knows her weaknesses. I don't know if you guys have been like following any social media stuff after the finale, but she more or less implies like, I'm trash at puzzles. There's other things I'm not good at, but you know what I can do is I can run. And so this is one where she knows like, okay, it's running. Like I need to come in first because there's going to be some numbers in some puzzle coming up soon or whatever it may be that is going to prevent that will hinder me. So I can see like why she's being like, let's go. This is one I need to win because who knows what like weaknesses of mine might show up in the next leg.
And then Darrell talked about why he wants to win and, creating inherited wealth for his family. And then they came in first place. And I was really thinking, oh my God, Darrell's going to win. This is what we've wanted all along. And we're getting those. This is why I want to win confessions. Maybe the winner's quote, you could say, but then I realized we heard that from everyone.
Except Yes, though. I feel like Yes didn't talk about his kids until like
the very end.
The end. I didn't even know that he was like married with children until that last part.
So like the way he had touched on it was interesting. So he was just like, $500,000 is no small amount of cash. He says the money will go somewhere good. And he knows what poverty and what living in affordable housing looks like. So he talks about the value more of the dollar. But he doesn't really, I guess, specify. He just says more like, I'm going to take care of people and support people. But I feel like we got more specificity from other people. And I guess really how this money is going to be useful to them. Or like what their motivation is for completing the challenge and just showing that they can prove themselves to themselves and to other people or not to other people at all, depending on the person. Yeah, so we saw that. We saw that Aneesa and Yes, they got 4 points. Jonna and Big Easy got 3 points. Ruthie and Alton got 2 points. And Mark and Jemmye got 1. And unfortunately, Jemmye was also struggling. And she very well felt like she could quit. But, she obviously doesn't want to quit on Mark, of course. Because I think that's the whole challenge with this, too. It's like, you could want to quit, but then by you quitting, you're quitting for your partner, which really sucks because only one person can win. And by how you handle and experience things, you can ultimately affect the other person. So it's also like that person has to be okay with the chance that they may lose the money, or you're kind of in a situation like we hear from, Big Easy later, where he knows he basically has no shot to win. So if he and his partner gave up, it really wouldn't have been a big deal for him in that sense. Although, of course, he didn't want to give up per se.
I want that to be a rule for the rest of the challenge, every single challenge here on out. I don't care if it's a one-day partnership or if it's like the season you're working in partners. Like if your partner quits, see ya, you're out too. Because then like it creates that dynamic where I can't quit for this person, or you get like the easy Jemmye dynamic where Jemmye all of a sudden is like, wait a second, I think you want to quit more than I do, and you're just trying to convince me to be the bad guy, and I get taken out because I don't actually want to be the one that quits, which then almost like motivates you to stay more, even though you're like, I want that to be a rule for the rest of time.
I agree. I love that. And it made me have a quick memory of a few seasons ago when Ashley, Millionaire Mitchell, used that as a tactic to her partner. She said, I'm going to quit and send you home. And I don't remember who her partner was, but they were going into elimination. And that was her tactic. And I would love to see people do it on the opposite. Like if you get a bad partner, you could say, I quit. I want you to go Ashley. Home. And I think it would happen both ways.
Ashley, when she's like, I'm already rich, I don't give a fuck. Like classic Ashley.
Exactly.
I mean, it works. At least
Yeah.
we're getting the TV and the entertainment. And so
Mhm.
she's bringing that added value to, any challenge season that she's on. So I love it. Yeah, so basically at this point we find out the general scores that people have at this point. So Dorella and Yes are at the top with 18. Jonna has 15, 13 for Kellyanne, 12 for Jemmye, 10 for Anissa, 10 for Ruthie, 9 for Alta, 9 for Mark, and 6 for Big Easy. So I think people are kind of at a point where it's like they only know they have one more partnership left, but they still do have another day. So it's really a question of where people land. And I guess there is that hope, which, Anissa's like later on mentions, like, if the only really way she has maybe a shot is really if there's double points, which we do see much later. But yeah, we do get those final partnerships, and Jemmye is not happy about her partner.
I wouldn't be either. And to be fair, Jemmye said this back in episode 2. So
Yeah.
good. I love that they showed that flashback of the last person I want to work with is Big Easy in a final. And then here it is. She has to work with him for the longest amount of time.
Karma.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That karma. And then they all get up to the lovely plates or selections of food. Yes is picturing hot dogs, warm milk, different
Why
things.
warm milk though?
I don't know.
I think warm milk is more likely to make me throw up than any of the things that were on that plate.
I would like maybe cold milk. I think that would be refreshing.
I think it's because he was just cold.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
A lot of them talked about later how cold it was. They were getting frostbite. Maybe he thought the warm milk would warm him up. Maybe.
That's definitely a possibility. I have no idea. I was just like, I mean, I guess I could see how it could be comforting maybe, but I'm also like, it's still daytime, so I don't know why that would be nice, but I don't know. I guess the whole campfire aesthetic, that whole, situation. But they had lots of roasted pieces of dead animal. And we kind of talked about what people were doing in the sequence. And a lot of people were giving their interesting descriptions for the food. And Kellyanne was not great to watch in this segment. But then even later on, she's like, "Oh, I want more." And I'm like, you were not doing well with this, so I don't know why you would want more. Ruthie is thankful for her, Filipino culture and household, because she basically recognizes almost everything that she ate except for one thing. But it is noticed that, of course, like, she is smaller and she has to eat the same amount of food as everyone else. So that is that added challenge of also pacing yourself while you eat so that you can finish this food.
The challenge, not making things equal for different types of people, not providing equity. The challenge, the MTV challenge, doing that? No, I refuse. I bet you Ruthie had less food. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, that just goes up with my end of
Josh. I guess
episode complaint.
They just don't mesh well. They're not really, they're not really friends. So maybe that has to do with it. But I mean, I guess it is even, I think, mentioned that part of the reason that she probably did also come last in that leg had to do with her low-key suffering, with that pepper. I think like even Mark acknowledges that he's not necessarily like frustrated that she wasn't able to do it. Like, he was very happy that she kept going, but more frustrated, like, he knew that they would have been able to do better and perform better if it weren't for the pepper.
Yeah. And
also, I would be go ahead, Jason, go ahead.
I was just going to say something I noticed when they were eating and, having those reactions, throwing up, was that they were still tethered together. And I remembered back in Double Agents, at that final, when they were doing the gross eating, they were not tethered together and able to walk away and turn around and vomit the other direction than right next to their partner. And so I think if I was tethered next to someone and they were having that reaction, it would really mess me up and I would be unable to eat everything. And I was just impressed that no one mentioned that. I guess maybe Jemmye did with Big Easy a little bit, but not as much as I thought.
You wouldn't have to worry about your partner throwing up if it was Fessy. He doesn't eat. But anyway, my point was going to be to the question that was asked about like why would Jemmye be upset. I don't know if you've noticed the way that Big Easy treats women that he doesn't like and respect as his partner. So obviously Jemmye, not the biggest Big Easy fan, as if you are, 7 episodes earlier being like, the last thing I want to do is be in a final with this guy, that I can't imagine that's like a happy-go-lucky dynamic in something that especially Jemmye's going to struggle with if she has such a weak stomach, where you might want an Alton, a Yes, a Darrell in this instance, because they don't get mad at what their partner's limitations are and just try to encourage them, versus Big Easy. Big Easy was trying to manipulate her into quitting because he wanted to quit. Like that's not a good partner.
You want to call it. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, the one thing I can't understand is that it's like, if you're going to quit, just let me know so I don't have to unnecessarily eat the stuff I don't want to eat. So I understand that. And I'm like, Big Easy, I get you, because I would not want to eat this if it was all for nothing.
Reminds me of Fessy.
His
attitude with Casey saying, I know we can't finish. I'm not going to eat.
So yeah, I don't know, but but it's disgusting. I don't even know what in the world they're eating. So personally, I don't know if I personally would do well with like the eating aspects of the challenge, but probably more of the other stuff.
Yeah. Did y'all think Jemmye was going to quit when they called TJ over?
Yes.
I thought it was definitely a serious possibility. Yeah. So and then, they brought the cliffhanger and it's like, no, we're going to keep going. And I was like, well, actually, I'm glad that she didn't quit. But it was just kind of, TJ's face is just so funny. Like when they're like thinking or considering quitting, he's just like, he just has this huge judgment on his face. And then they're like, and I think that's partially probably what deterred them, because it's like, well, TJ doesn't like quitters, so I guess we can't quit. But it's also like,
he also
you should do what you want.
Tears into people that quit during the gross eating stuff, except again for Fessy. But like when Jenna and her ex-boyfriend, was it Jay, his name, on that one, like he went off. He doesn't really take lightly to the people who can't eat discussing things. So I have something else I want to bring up about this, that if we were like a highbrow company with like editing opportunities, I would love for us to flash back to when I was like, who works better for their partner, Aneesa for Darrell or Ruthie for Yes? Because I saw a post on Reddit that broke down the math of all the points here, and by Yes and Ruthie coming in third in this eating part and Darrell and Aneesa coming in fourth, if it had flopped, then the points end up in a tie in first place if the like final race happens the way it does. So by Ruthie, little old Ruthie, being able to out-eat Aneesa with the mentorship and coaching of her partner, Yes, it's that point differential that makes the difference in Yes winning versus him and Darrell tying for first place.
Yeah, and even if you think about it too, like even probably with the last leg, if Darrell came in first versus second, since the points were double, it probably would have also tied in that way. But I think that's the main factor was the eating challenge too. But because like I think when I watched it the second time, I was literally thinking about, oh wow, the point. I think that point differential really made an impact on Darrell's ability to even have a shot to win. So it's crazy.
Darrell would have had to come in first in the race.
Yeah. Even tie.
In order to tie, and then he would have tied if he had come in him and Aneesa had come in third, and Yes and Ruthie came in fourth. So I just thought that it was something that like last week, and I was like, wait a second, what about the partners? And then reading that post this morning, I was like, I called that.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and it makes a lot of sense. I also noticed, it was that leg of the race that derailed Darrell. I think it was.
How long were you working on that one? I love it.
1 second. Right off the top of my head.
I like that you
I'm
think
proud of you. I'm proud of you.
I just wanted to say, I think it was the peppers, and that's what messed him up so much. And because I don't ever remember hearing them say Darrell's not an eater. He can't do that part of the final. And so I think he hadn't, died with Kellyanne pretty much and having snot coming out everywhere, he might have been able to eat faster, because the edit, they were showing Anissa and Darrell having so much fun eating, dancing, doing all this stuff. I thought they were going to come in first place. And then 2.5 hours later, they finished.
Right.
Yeah, because I think one point Anissa was like, chew, like it was chewing, or and I was like, what does that mean?
Like,
so yeah, I don't know. It was definitely, I think, quite an interesting situation in how literally just a single placement can have a huge impact on that point differential. And so, yeah, so we see that essentially Kellyanne and Mark as a unit finish first, and Kellyanne is very happy about the 3 number ones in a row. And I was like, well, who knows, maybe Kellyanne could theoretically win this. But I was still feeling like in my head it was probably between Yes and Darrell, so I wasn't necessarily sure. But I felt like she had a lot of good momentum where I thought maybe she could come in second. I don't know, because obviously it was pretty neck to neck with her and Janae in terms of like the women, which is also kind of why I'm a little disappointed that they didn't have like maybe a male and like a woman winner person.
Are we going to get into that right now? Because I'm ready for it. Like, I mean, whenever we want to bring up that topic, I am here. My mentions are still being blown up about it. So
I love it.
I agree that we either need a man and a woman for winners, and they each get the same amount of money for obvious reasons of like we have the men's Olympics and women's Olympics. Like they compete in the same events at the same time, but not against each other. Like a marathon, like we're never like, oh, well, the top winner didn't beat any of the men. So, or not any of the men, but like the top men, like there's so many in real life. We have these abilities to create equity between what a man and a woman can and cannot do. Like, why are we fucking women over on television shows for a sum of money who are providing us with the same, if not better, entertainment than some of the men? Like they're doing everything that the men are, but then are leaving empty-handed just because like they're not as athletically built. Like you don't have a Jenny on this season. You don't have a Cara Maria. Like there are some women who can beat some of these men, but still nonetheless, like why do you need like that one out of however many in order for the women to have a chance to win, when you can just make it, here's a female winner, here's a men's winner, and that's it. Or I saw someone on Reddit say like, do day 2 like you did day 1, and then the highest point total gets it. If you really want a one person winner, then at least like you don't have to worry about having that unequal mountain climb or whatever it may be, which I also think is an interesting thing to consider. But I hate it. Kellyanne went off on it too. She's like, yeah, I can have babies, but men can't. Like, where's my money for that?
Yeah, and something that I was thinking when watching it, because I agree with you 1,000,000%. I thought it was so unfair because they'd been paired up in mixed gender pairs every leg of the race. And so I actually wondered, as the points were doubled, would the first woman to finish also get 10 points? Because that's how they'd been doing it. The first male winner, at the different legs, 5 and 5. I thought it was going to be 10 and 10, and Kellyanne would get 10 points and Janae would get 8 points. That's
smart.
That's what I thought, but I was wrong. I was really disappointed. I agree. I thought the women competed so well. It was unfair, and it's not the first time in challenge history this has happened, because it also happened in War of the Worlds. Like poor Ninja was left on the sand when they flew away in the helicopter. And that wasn't right then. I think this was especially wrong now, and I was wrong. I will own it. I thought they would split the money a few weeks ago. All my predictions were wrong. I'm glad I didn't bet on them. But I also saw like Kellyanne's a thing on Reddit where Kellyanne was posting about the World Cup and men's and women's.
Yep, that's all in that same teams, long post. Yeah,
and how they're fighting to get equal pay. They're actually winning. The women Team USA soccer. For those of you who don't follow, they're the best in the world. And our men's team are not.
They're trash. They don't qualify for anything. Yeah,
and it's happening all over the world in every aspect, and it's just not right. I will say though, it wasn't unexpected because my brother watched it yesterday and I asked him what he thought about that. And he said, TJ said there's one winner, period.
Yeah.
We're not splitting it. So they shouldn't have expected them to. But
and something
I hope
that
they change it next season. Sorry.
Yeah, something that concerns me is like they mentioned it a little bit at like the sleepover part, and it's also come up on social media that most of these cast members who came back thought they were playing backyard games and then are getting like, I think that's a big reason why we see like a Kendall freak out, a Katie freak out, all that type of stuff is because like they thought they were going to be playing that like ladder golf game in the backyard, and instead they're jumping from 30 feet in these apparatuses. Like, I don't think that they knew what they were getting themselves into 100%. And so then how do you get how do you get a Kellyanne back if it's like I was the top woman left in this final and I'm leaving here with an experience because I did everything the men did, but this is like set up for a man to win at the end. Like, why am I here? Why am I putting my life on hold to do this when you're not going to at least give me an equal opportunity to win the same amount of money? And like, I think it could be difficult to get some of these people back, especially the finalists, after they've gone through it. And it's like, am I just going to get fucked over again to have to go and eat like barbecued animal dick and not get any money for it? So I don't know if that's like the smartest thing, especially in 2021. Like, come on, treat women equally. This isn't like, don't set us back, MTV, with something that's been so enjoyable. This is my like one complaint about this whole series is like, you have the platform to do something. Don't not just do something, but regress as well. It's frustrating.
Also, it's an all-star season. So it's like, okay, if you're going to have double winners in like your last season of the challenge, why can't you have like a man and woman winner in the challenge all-stars? Like, I don't understand. Is it all just, oh, I had a great journey and great experience and I proved to myself that I could do things, and that's basically the story? Because that's kind of how it felt, unfortunately, I think, with the end. And even though like I'm like content with the winner because I wasn't like too much of a surprise, I just still felt like, in a sense, like even despite this being a good finale, it felt a little flat for me because I think, these people came in second and third place, but does that mean anything? Like, I hope MTV gave them a little bit of something, but it's from what I've heard, I don't know if it really sounds like that's even happened. So I think it's like, okay. And I don't know. It's just a tough situation because I feel like that that part of the final was kind of different. And I also think that we saw that the people who thrived, they had their, I guess, mountain instincts and knew that using sticks to help them can be a succeeding, instrument to do well for hiking, but like things like that. But I just felt like you have this even thing going on, and then you have this thing that's not even at the end. Like, I understand the every like man, woman, or for themselves, but I just feel like, kind of like you guys were saying, like maybe it should have been like the first woman should have like received 10.8 and so on, because it was just very strange to go, you're going to force people to work together for all these segments of the race and then have them do it alone and then have one winner.
Also, I might be wrong about something. I need to get back to this post, but it's so...
While Carrie's looking at that, I just wanted to say,
go ahead.
I agree with what you said about the lack of winning money motivating people to return for next season. Like Kellyanne, I think it applies even more to someone like Janae, who left her family for this. She was the first woman, technically the woman winner, co-winner, and she's walking away with nothing. Why would she come back and do that again? She's not going to beat people that train for this year round, like Kellyanne, Darrell. Yes, they are very physically fit people, and she showed up and did just as well as them and is walking away with not the same, with as much as the guy who went home first. Just went blank on his name. Ace. That's called everyone monsters. She got the same as him. That's not fair.
So they didn't even do double points.
Oh, really?
They did 10-1 because if you double, like it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you double 4, it's 8. Darrell got 9 points. So just putting that out there into the universe. They didn't even do like what they said they were doing in terms of the points. I just like because I had looked at this chart a couple of times that someone had made, and I just had the like, wait a second, 4 times 2 isn't 9. So just wanted to put that out there so our audience hears like, okay, there's that other little thing. I had a different point to make about the finale as well, and like the way that here's what I was thinking. If you recall back to we had foresight on this. Remember the mini final that they ran, that the end was every person for themselves. And what we had, Derek and Latarian finish 1-2, and then Kendall finished 3rd. Mm-hmm. And so they did say like this is a mini final. So we had this coming up. My dog is stuck in the curtain string. I'll be right back.
Yeah, and I feel like they've generally did say like, oh, this is what we were gonna see. It's going to be one winner, et cetera, et cetera. But even so, like in my head, I was still hoping that they were gonna like come up with some sort of surprise, because I just feel like, I mean, I think there are certain aspects, of course, where I think the women are strong, and I think we're not even saying that they're not, I guess, as equivalent to the men, but I think there are certain things like this, I guess, hiking thing where it's like you probably need to be, be decently fit and have this sort of stamina to make it through that, especially considering all the other things that happened before. And I don't know, there's just a lot of different elements where I just feel like you have these equal challenges, and all of a sudden you have what I don't think that's necessarily equal, even though everyone is technically doing the same thing.
I want it to like come back to the fact of MTV needs to like recognize, they need to be smarter than what they're showing us they are. Like if it's genuinely all stars and you have like Cara Maria, Laurel, Evelyn, like Emily, like Jenny, the best of the best of the best, and you want to say we're making this equal, then go for it. But like, look at our final 5 for women. They made it to the final. Great. Kellyanne stands the best chance of hiking up a mountain faster than anyone. And we know Yes and Darrell are going to smoke her. Mark Long's probably going to, you know what I mean? Like going into it, that final, you're watching that race for the men essentially, because you know that like if it's not women versus women and men versus men, like the women just don't stand a chance, and that sucks. Like if it's genuinely all-stars and you want to bring out the top tier women and say, go at it. We've seen Jenny beat some of the best men in this. Sure. However, it's just not fair. Like, know who you're casting if that's what you want your finale to be. If not, put in an element where like you have to stand and hold your balance for however long. Like women tend to have better balance than men. Like that's a very easy equalizer. Something that women stand a chance of doing that it doesn't, we know that they're not going to get smoked. So I'm done complaining about it. That's my one big gripe, but I still love this finale based off of just like the shit talk alone. So
my last thought about this issue is I think even if they would have split up the prize money and it would have been a last minute surprise, they all would have been okay with it.
Dude, especially Yes.
Yes would have been all in. They had such camaraderie within this group. They were so happy for each other to finish and across the finish line one by one. It would have just been a better party. It would have been no big deal for them. It's only a big deal for MTV and Paramount Plus.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we get to that, actual crazy part of the final, so we do see everyone basically manages to eat their food. Jemmy's at this point where she's eaten more meat now than she has in the last 3 years of her life, and probably won't eat meat again. And I completely get that, because after seeing, they just had to consume so much, and it was rough. So then they had this very interesting situation where they kind of had like this like platform, like teeter-totter apparatus situation to hold up the bed, and so the person had to stand on it while their partner slept. And if the person who was standing fell, them and their partner had to switch. And Yes was like, I've slept in snow caves and on the side of a mountain, and he shivered all night. It's no different than that. He's got this. He feels warm inside and capable. He feels ready to roll. And Jonna mentions Alton, who's such a great partner. I think he kind of has the sense at this point that he's not going to win, but he really wants to support his partners, and especially Jonna, because he thinks of her as a sister. And so he's doing everything he can to make sure she gets that rest that she needs. But he's also just getting tired of hearing Yes's voice and talking about his positivity and whatnot, and Kellyanne's complaining. So yeah, we just, we hear a lot of people suffering, and Jemmye is freezing to death, traumatized, sick to her stomach, hearing Easy snoring like he's at the Four Seasons. And, of course, he's used to hearing his former frat bros making lots of noise so he can sleep through anything. So, we hear a lot of people talk about how they're feeling through this, how they're dealing through this. Even Ruthie gets emotional in her confessional about splitting the money with her sister. So we just hear a lot of people kind of, talking about that. So you guys have any additional thoughts about this portion and people attempting to sleep or the conditions of this particular challenge?
Yeah. Can we not force people to stay up all night before running a second part of a final anymore? I want to watch people at their best.
Yeah.
I don't think this is necessary. What do we get out of this, really? I'm sick of this being one of the things that they do. Let them get a full night's sleep and then go at it. It's the final. They earn this. They earn the right to it's still going to be hard whether or not you get 8 hours of sleep or 2 hours of sleep. The hike up that mountain. So just let them go to bed.
or even do something like they did 2 seasons ago on the challenge, where they had different competitions and they got better sleeping arrangements based on their finishing.
I did like that part. Yeah.
I do like that.
I'm cool with that version of it.
Yeah, rewarding people for how they did in day one to give them a better opportunity to sleep and prepare for the next day. Something that stood out to me during this was how much Alton and Aneesa were rooting for Jonna and encouraging her and telling her she was going to win, which probably, I feel, maybe made her more nervous and anxious. Hearing this from such stellar competitors like Alton and Aneesa, as a legend of the show, it probably made her nervous. Can I really win? I was thinking Jonna's not going to win, because if everyone's boosting her up, she might get in her own head, as she and she hadn't been the whole first day, as she was dominating.
Do you think that Jonna dominated because she was strategic about partner selection? Because I've seen some of that being Yes and Jonna did the best job picking their partners in when they wanted certain people. And we saw it from the beginning with Yes. We saw Yes wait specifically for Jemmye on that part. And I think that could be a big thing. If he had good obviously everybody has the same people as partners throughout, because there's 5 and 5, but he had the right people at the right time. But I also think it's probably a big part of just his character. He's a good partner to have.
And as you said that about him waiting for Jemmye in the first stage, it was Ysella that he didn't want to be paired with, and that ended up sending her and Derek home. And imagine if Yes didn't stop and wait a few minutes. That could have been him going home at the first flag and not winning this, and the whole final would have been different. I think it really speaks to his strategy and that he was there to win.
Yeah, and I think he did very well with that. I think they were both very strategic in their partner selection, and I guess for example, I think Jemmye, we saw that she was in a bad position in terms of even though I think she was very consistent and did very strong overall. I mean, I guess towards the end it started to drop for her, but I think the first few parts of the talent, the finale, went really well, but it got to a point where she was with a partner that she did not want to be with at all at the end. And it's understandable. I think maybe she was not prioritizing him in essence because she didn't want to be partnered with him. But then it's also leaving the last thing that could be a detrimental situation, and she did have to spend a considerable amount of time with him that she didn't want to spend with him. So I think that
Yeah.
that's something that in a sense probably didn't help her situation.
And on top of that, with Jemmye, I think it was the food. And because, like you said,
Mhm.
Geneva, she did really well in the first few parts of the final. And then the food, the peppers, really threw her off her game
Yeah.
and took her mentally out of the final. And I think that's what really led to her downfall in the next few legs and made her unwilling to work with Big Easy,
Yeah.
because she was just ready to finish and get this over with and lay in the hot tub or hang out by the pool, like she said earlier in this season. You know, that's what she's there to do, not eat gross food.
Yeah. And I don't blame her at all. And that's why I was like, even like last week, I was rooting for her super hard because I was
Yeah.
like, I think like even though this would not necessarily be the most expected winner, I feel like considering what we got from Jemmye this season, like I think she would have been like a really great winner. But I guess, you know, unfortunately, I really feel like definitely the, you know, the mixture of the peppers and this disgusting food really had a huge impact, I think, on a number of people. Some people, it's like even if it had an impact on them, it obviously didn't really affect their trajectory overall.
Mhm.
But I think that did really have an impact on how some people performed or how they could have performed if they were with a different partner as well. Like
Also,
you know,
Jemmy's deathly afraid of ketchup. I don't know.
I forgot about that.
Yes, like she is incredibly afraid of ketchup that I don't know.
I remember.
Yeah, like I don't expect anything out of her in terms of eating if you can't handle ketchup. So, and I thought about that. I'm like, what if they just like put a bottle of ketchup out and we're like, you have to eat this before going on to the next stage. So, like I felt bad for Jemmye and like how much it affected her, but at the same time, it wasn't surprising to me because I do remember that she nearly murdered someone over bringing ketchup near her. So
they just really like to make these players suffer for the money. And sure, it's great entertainment value, but I think it gets to a point for me where I'm like, I really don't want to see these people like sure, I don't mind if they're like slightly bothered, but I don't want to see them like on the ground or like puking excessively. Like that doesn't make me like feel great as a viewer, especially if I'm like rooting for that person. I'm like, I don't want to see them like struggling like that. But you know, I get they need the drama. They need to add some sort of element. Maybe they should have maybe chose maybe a pepper that was a little less severe. I don't know. Maybe they need to alter things. But you know, I know they were trying to bring back certain themes that we saw earlier this season. So,
and another thought I had about maybe why the food played such a factor is, you know, these people are older than the younger contestants, people in their 20s that kept getting mentioned, you know, and I know as you get older, you know, your body reacts differently to different things. And so maybe people at 40 plus have a harder time digesting those peppers than someone who's 21. And maybe, I guess, production didn't factor that into the season when they were coming up with this. But I think, you know, it affected them way more than the younger people who maybe. But everyone's different.
In general, I think you bring up a good point where it's like, I think overall these challenges are not made for them. And they're putting them through these sorts of challenges. And I feel like MTV didn't much take that into consideration when they're choosing who's going to win, how many people are going to win. Like, I think that that's also another thing that they like. I think it's a great accomplishment that all these contestants were able to complete the final and they were able to do things that they didn't expect that they were going to do, because a lot of them have been out of it for, you know, 10, 15 years, etc. And so like,
or 4 months if you're Darrell
yeah,
and Aneesa,
you know, if you're Darrell or Aneesa. But even like Aneesa was like, I haven't done a final in who knows how long, and it was definitely like much challenging than what she's experienced in her past. So like, I think that's a thing too, is a lot of people aren't doing things like this on, you know, normally. And especially as you get older, it becomes harder to do certain things. So
can we like come to a conclusion on Aneesa at this point? Like, I feel like we've seen her in her youngest and at her prime. We've seen her in that middle stage. We've got her now, and like, she can hold her own in eliminations, but I don't think she's built for finals. And I just like, all right, I'm going to be the guy who says this. Can we stop giving her spot? and like let someone come in. Like the fact that last season Jenny, the former or like the previous season's champion, got alternated for a bunch of those women. Like give me someone who like can do all of it. And she keeps getting called back, which like good for you. It's how you make your money. She was found on Bumble and she's like, she put her job as like an independent contractor for whatever, which I thought was hilarious. But like this final really gave me like, I can close the book on Aneesa. I don't know if Aneesa's ready to close the book on Aneesa, but like, I don't think we're ever going to get her in a place where she had more of an opportunity to win than she did in this. And when everyone else is getting younger on the real challenge and she's not, I would like to say goodbye to Aneesa. I don't think we are, but that's my personal opinion. I just don't think that she can do these finals.
I agree completely. Y'all know I love Aneesa. I think she brings it most of the time, but not when it comes to the final. This episode made it crystal clear she does not have what it takes to compete at finals like this. The older finals, from 5-10 years ago, she could still compete in. But these are so physically demanding that she's just not in good enough shape right now. And I also want to say, I don't think very many of the women they cast on the last season could have finished the final on Double Agents or this season. And I think that's an injustice to those women on how they're framing the final and who production and casting is calling. And the fact that the reigning winner, Jenny, wasn't given a spot to defend her crown is very shady to me.
Yeah, I think from watching this episode, it's like as much as I like a root for Aneesa, I did think it was really hard for me to like feel like, oh, I would like to see how she would do on a final in a normal modern challenge though, before I would say goodbye to her personally, because I just feel like the season's a bit different. But like it, I guess when you compare her to other people who haven't been on for years that might have performed better. But, alas for me, I think because I feel like we have watched her journey for a considerable amount of time, I am like ultimately just proud that she was able to do stuff that she either hasn't done in a while or just proved to her she could get through a final. And I think that was what was really important for a lot of the contestants on the Challenge All-Stars, was just saying that they could do it and that they didn't give up. And I think, for example, like unfortunately, we did see over the course of the season, like Big Easy was not necessarily positive to a lot of the women he worked with, but Aneesa was one. I think they both kind of had that sort of connection, friendship, and relationship where they both could empathize for one another because they're in a similar position with how people perceive them, and just how, like, just the overall perception of them, maybe based on how, they're built or just like how, they've performed in the past. And so like, ultimately, I was happy to see, like that sort of, I guess, growth in a sense that he was being like, even though he was like with Jemmye, he wasn't necessarily like, he was indirectly trying to be like, oh, you could quit. He still, like, I think was being like supportive. He's like, I understand if you can't do this. And like, I still feel like he, at least I think collectively, most of like the men and women like in this final, like I think people, they weren't necessarily like super mad at people like Fessy would be, for example. They were still pretty uplifting and supportive to everyone, which is what I really appreciate. Like, sure, some people were probably frustrated when their partner wasn't feeling well, but I think everyone realizes that they're all in a similar position where it's been a while since they've done this. They're maybe haven't done anything this grueling or intense. And I think that's at least something, we should celebrate and that I do appreciate. But I do think that, like, Aneesa didn't do as well in this final as I would have hoped, but I would like to see her compete on a more modern challenge final with, with the people she usually competes with before I personally would say goodbye. So
I'm just trying to think of like, what final in recent history do we think that if Aneesa makes it, she stands a chance of being competitive? I can't think of one, and I've been trying to think of one. And then again, I'm not saying it as an Aneesa hater, because I appreciate what she's brought to like women being able to be outspoken, to be themselves, for like the intersectionality she has just as a human, and how that's like, I appreciate all those things that she's brought, but like I'm at the point where she doesn't do it for me, the competition wise. And so how much of the show is supposed to entertain us socially versus how much is supposed to entertain us like athletically and challenge wise. And I don't know if she's bringing me in enough athletically and challenge wise to like justify giving her spot to, especially when we're drafting from literally, if you've been on a television before, you have an opportunity to be on this show. So I don't know. I just think that if, as a sports fan, when you see the player who's just like, dude, you need to hang it up a year or two ago, I'm getting that vibe from Aneesa. And like, she still has a place in the challenge world. I would love her to continue hosting that challenge podcast. Have her co-host with someone who is like, was on that current season, because she knows the dynamics of what goes on in that house. She knows the social gameplay. She knows how grueling it is. But I don't know if we still need her on the TV. I think give her that podcasting hosting role and like let her thrive there. But
I do want to say Aneesa did win the first 2 challenges on Double Agents. She is a competitor. She does have her strengths. She is still one of the best puzzlers out there. She's one of the smartest people out there doing math and problem solving. But unfortunately, with these physically demanding finals that are so grueling on your body, she's not succeeding as much. And I think it might be directly from her ankle surgery a few years ago when she got hurt on Champs vs. Pros or whatever. Maybe that's prohibited her from building as much muscle in her legs to run up the mountain. But I felt bad for her.
And I think maybe ultimately that's something maybe where the challenges or like, you know, a lot of like the dailies and things and even eliminations may not necessarily translate to what the finals are like. And so I think that's where it's kind of difficult, where it's like, I think Aneesa is really strong. Like, you know, I think, you know, like we saw her do well and thrive on the Challenge All-Stars too. I think it's just, that's where the difficulty is. Like, maybe, I don't know. I mean, of course, like I think you want to make the final different and I guess more intense and grueling than the challenges. But I also feel like maybe that's also a production disconnect. Or I also feel like maybe for future seasons, like if Aneesa goes on, maybe those are her weaknesses are the things that she should like train and focus on, so that like when she can come into a final, she'll kill it. Rather than it seems like, you know, but it's also been difficult where she's made it so close and hasn't made it to the final. So that's also the thing. She may not have had really known what she needed to work on per se because she hasn't gone through it. Like, of course, she's seen it and probably watched it on TV.
Like, she's seen it. She has friends who have ran it. Like, I don't know. To compare her to someone like CT, who CT bulked up on that dad bod and was a much bigger and like less competitive version of himself. This past season, he came in like slimmed up, muscled up, like ready to go. And so like, do we get that realization, or is she just okay going, holding her own in some eliminations and then like not making the final or making the final and struggling through it? Like, is that what there has to be a level of self-awareness here. And so do you just want to be on TV and get to do these things and that's how you're making your money? And then hope that maybe you stumble your way into a final win? Because I don't think that like in any season, she's going to be the favorite to win a final. And it's going to be tough for her to do it from like here on out. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I, again, appreciate what she brings like socially and narrator wise. But when you think of even the alternates who like didn't get to make this season, who were like more athletic alternates, I know you need the balance to make the entertaining TV, but I think I watch this more for the athleticism. I still appreciate the social. It's like what drives a podcast like this, but I need more of a balance.
That being said, Aneesa did finish the final, and so much respect for her for doing that. And I cannot wait for the next season for her to rub it in Fessie's face every single day.
I'm so excited.
Drinking coffee,
I need that
eating breakfast, that she finished the final and he couldn't. And I just hope we see that on our screens.
Oh my gosh.
Do you think that's where she's making her allies at breakfast? She learned it from Yes this season.
Well, it's
next
a
season
winning strategy.
It
worked.
It worked for people. You're gonna win.
It definitely worked, which is, awesome. And so like, ultimately I'm super proud of her. And, I think because she's been here for so long. I feel like the show, finds a added value to have her there. And maybe part of it is that she mentioned, she hasn't won yet, and, she's been here for so long. But I think for some people, maybe they do constantly do these seasons, not necessarily to win per se, but just to push their limits, see what they can do and what they can achieve. Mm-hmm. And, if the show is going to continue to bring her back, I think it's great that she's taking that as an advantage to see, like, for herself, just like her own personal self. And I know that, of course, we want to see a variety of people on the show. But I think that's probably also, an added layer of why, for some people, it's an individual thing in terms of they continue going on because they want to see what they can do and, test themselves. But yeah, so like we, I guess went definitely quite in depth on that. And so then we have the final day. People are waking up. We see TJ.
Dude, TJ on the horse.
That was hysterical.
Jemmy's commentary when she was like, TJ normally shows up and is like, hey, with the little like radical. I never had noticed that until Jemmy pointed out. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's a thing. That was one of the highlights of the finale for me. It was TJ coming in on that horse for sure.
And them all laughing at him and him being like, I do this shit. As the horse was running the other direction, not listening to him. I loved it. I thought it was so funny. And I wish TJ would, run out on the horse every season.
That was great. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that great moment happens, of course. And then they're told that they need to race all the way to the top, every man or woman for themselves to get to the top of the mountain. Of course, TJ, we end up seeing he just takes a helicopter up there. He's like, I'm not gonna bother.
Bougie ass bitch.
Everyone is still in this. He says because it's double points.
Except it's not.
10 points and so on. But we have found out based off of the math that that's not exactly accurate. So I don't know. I guess they were just like, let's have everyone run this final and make them think that they all still have a chance to some extent. So, but then when it came to tabulation, although maybe they also thought that like maybe even with like if they did put double points in the equation, it still wouldn't have made a difference on the outcome.
It wouldn't for the men because Darrell would have finished with one less point.
Exactly. So I think that's partially where they're like, even though they said it, and then when we saw what happened, they didn't even need to do that because
the other part is because they didn't do it like they had been, like Jason had mentioned, like each man and woman got 5 points. In this case, that didn't happen. So otherwise, like they said, you would have had to give Kellyanne 10 points as opposed to whatever she got. So no, those slimy MTV people lying to my face and me taking 3 days to figure it out plus a Reddit post.
MTV. Shame. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we see them, all I guess start to run. I don't know if Alton was running in the beginning. I don't know. I saw like some weird, I think he was just chilling because I think, most people realize that this is basically a marathon and not a sprint.
Most people, asterisk, Darrell.
And Yes is like, Darrell is off into the woods. Immediately, he must know something that I don't know.
That was funny.
That was great. I love that. And that was the thing I thought about too, is like, I feel like in a sense, of course, you want to have like a good pace in front of everybody else. But considering the terrain you're going on and you're also running with your bag on and all this other stuff, you have these layers, like you have to realize like this is going to be, you really need to pace yourself. You can't just run, sprint, and go in front of everybody and hope for the best. And we ended up seeing obviously that taking off layers really leads to victory, at least in Yes's case. But Darrell knows that Yes is his biggest threat. But he says that his desire to win is bigger than Yes. So he'll probably pull it out. Yeah, and then Alton mentions wanting to bring his family together on a cruise if he were to win the money, but he knows he's not doing well with the points right now. Ruthie is kind of in that sense of showing the over 40s club can do it. Considering, they're not young like the typical people on the normal challenge. And Jemmye is really just to prove things to herself, not to people in the house or anybody at home. And we kind of start seeing the little matchup between Kellyanne and Jonna, and Jonna seeing vivid colors at this point of the race. And Kellyanne's like, I need to basically, pass people beat people one person at a time. And so eventually she does catch up and makes up some time and, I guess gets ahead of Jonna. And Jonna is just really pushing herself. And then we see kind of like what we've touched on a bit, Big Easy being there to support Aneesa and is like, I'm gonna finish this final with you and I'm gonna be your motivator. And we kind of have a similar story in terms of how people, I guess perceive us in this game, or just like collectively within the challenge sphere. So they kind of bring that, support to one another. Yeah. And then crunch time.
We're skipping over wait, go ahead. Never mind. Maybe we're not skipping over the best part. Go ahead. I'm gonna see if we can get to it. If not, I'm coming in hot with it. So.
Yeah, if I skipped it, I'm sorry, but
I'm sure you won't. You have the most detailed notes of any human being I've ever encountered in my entire life. So maybe I jumped the gun here. Proceed.
Who knows? Okay. So who knows? I don't know if I caught it. But anyway, yeah, so we kind of see Yes is, in second place, basically strips off his pants, his shirt. He knows like without overheating, he could probably catch up to Darrell, who will likely overheat if he keeps running at the pace he is and if he's not taking off layers of clothing. And then, Mark references to rolling out of a wooden plank at 6:30 and starting a 5-mile hike up the mountain is not ideal. And he doesn't like that they made him do that. But his main goal is to beat Yes and Darrell because he knows he needs to finish in the top 2 if he wants to have a, remote shot at winning. And then Yes pulls out those hiking sticks and tells Mark to chase him when he's ready.
I love that.
So great, and we do see, TJ rise at the top of the mountain on the helicopter. Darrell's looking back. He's not seeing anyone near him. He has no doubt in his mind that, Yes is probably not going to catch up to him. At least he thinks because he's not seeing him. But then he starts to hear something. And he notices that Yes is catching up with 2 sticks, like he's on an elliptical, basically. And Yes does catch up to Darrell. And, Yes was like, do I start talking crap to him?
This was what I was referencing.
Yeah. And then, Darrell's like, where the F did he come from? Like, what is happening? Do you have any additional thoughts or perspective on this, Carrie?
When Yes is like, y'all motherfuckers should have voted me in when you had the chance.
Yeah, that was the best.
I was literally thinking this whole final. I'm like, why did they not
because they had breakfast with him.
And then Aneesa's just like, I want to do with what my gut says.
I wish we got more of this Yes commentary and narration through the season because he's hilarious. Like the fact that he has this level of like or he has a chip on his shoulder that he didn't really show us and stayed humble is probably why he was able to make it to this point and be in the final. However, like behind closed doors, run your mouth, man. Like I was dying at the like him passing Darrell part of just like, do I talk shit? Do I not talk shit? Fuck it, I'm talking shit. Y'all motherfuckers should have voted me when you had the chance. Like, it was so good. It was so good. Like, run your mouth, man. Let's go. And like, that's the way to run your mouth in these things versus like making it personal or anything like that. Like, that's the best type of trash talk where all Darrell can do is be like, you're right. We should have, as you were passing me on your elliptical. And when Darrell's like, you should have stopped it. That like whole little segment was one of my favorites of just Yes running his mouth. And like, I knew Darrell wasn't catching him after that because maybe they show Yes, like if there was some sort of demise and Darrell passing him, but that part was so good. And I wish we got more of that type of Yes but
Same.
we obviously see that he knows what he's doing a lot more than he let on, I think, in terms of like how to approach the game. Like he stayed so under the radar. I think we didn't get a lot of like, if you did this off of confessional counts and like your educ nerd like stuff that some shows do, like Yes doesn't win this. He doesn't. It really isn't until like these last episodes or two when it's like, okay, there's only 10 people that we can have talk, that we hear a little bit more from him. But I wish we got more of that.
Yeah.
I saw a Reddit post that was like, we must have known that Yes was gonna win, because no one that loses has the confidence to wear such an ugly hat. Like
I saw that.
I should be citing these people on Reddit if you happen to listen to us and I'm stealing your, at least I'm saying it was someone on Reddit. This is not my original thought, but yeah,
Reddit.
Yes. I just thought that this point, like from TJ on the horse to Yes passing Jarrell was some of the most entertaining television I had seen in a challenge finale since Ashley stole the money from Hunter. Like hands down in a finale. I don't think we've seen something as fun or like, oh my God, since then. And so I loved that.
Yeah, I think for a winner, in a sense, it was like, I'm happy that Yes won, but for me, in terms of the edit, it wasn't as exciting because I feel like in terms of the way the show edited him, we didn't really get super connected with him. And I think that was like my only like, I think issue in terms of like, I just like wish maybe like they would have thrown a couple more confessionals in there, like what he was thinking, or maybe getting a sense earlier on in the season that like, making people breakfast and, having a drink with them in the morning, like that's, his strategy. Like, I feel like we didn't really get a sense of that really until it came to other people having a friendship conflict. And then he just happened to be in the middle because people were starting to talk about people who haven't proved themselves or haven't gone in. And I think that's also the thing where it's like, he didn't really have, I guess, that much of the story that I think a lot of people that we constantly spend a lot of time talking about on this podcast, because we didn't really see him compete as much. So I think that was just the only thing that I think was disappointing for me as a viewer, is like that I really wish I was connected more to the winner, in the sense that we knew like how he was feeling, what his motivations were, like what he was thinking, hearing his jokes. Like, I just wish that they did that a bit more, because I'm like, I'm very content with him winning. But I just feel like in terms of what we saw in these episodes, they just didn't give us enough.
The only reason I'm kind of okay with it is because, like, again, for that athletic point, like, you don't always get to, like, you have the athlete and the person, and a lot of times you don't get to see the intermix of the two. So when you take, like, this end part is a lot of athleticism, getting, like, that quiet underdog in a way coming up and winning it's kind of cool. And like, I like that we got more of him. Like, I like all right, like, let me run my mouth part 100%. But also, because sometimes, like, I'm not a big edit person. I am the worst at reading between the lines. Like, I need it to be upfront and straightforward for me. So when people are like, well, we got this one clip of these 4 words, and if you didn't know that this person was going to win based off of that, you're an idiot. I'm the idiot. So, like, then you get all these, like, oh, well, Darrell had this many and this person this many, so it has to be them. That kind of like, oh, this guy came out of left field. Like, so I do like the element of surprise, but I also understand because almost everyone else had that story. Like I said, like, he has kids, he has a wife. I had no idea till after, but that was kind of cool because I think, like, if like Janae had won, what more does she say that hasn't been said already? If, like, where Yes wins, and then we get the, like, I've got kids at home who said I had a 1 in 900 chance of winning, or, like, we get the extra stuff there that I do kind of like, that it was held off a bit because he gets to actually, like, relish in this victory versus, like, this is what I hope and pray I get to do this and, like, celebrate and do these things with the money. So I kind of liked that it was a bit of a surprise in that sense, but I do completely understand your point of, like, oh, I wish I had, like, more of a rooting interest in him going into this than some of the other characters we saw a lot of.
Yeah, and I think it would have been odd with such a loaded cast in the beginning of, this is only a 9-episode season. So there's not that much of episodes to review. But in the first few episodes, if Yes would have gotten more screen time than Trishelle and Katie and Beth and Cyrus, we would have thought something was fishy and something was going on. And so I think they did a great job.
I think they should have focused a bit on, at least on his his personal life, even if it wasn't about the game. Like, I feel like they spent a lot more time. I mean, part of it had to do with the fact that people were eliminated earlier, so they were trying to get them as much in the edit as possible. But I guess just from like maybe because I just analyze like a lot of these games too much and I watch too many of these. But I think just like when I look at the edit in terms of like just in the beginning, like I wish we had, you know, a little bit more, whether it's about his past challenge experience, or just even more about like him as a person.
Or just him creating relationships with his, you know, the other challengers. Like, I wish Yes would have gotten more screen time at the bar scenes, because if he's having this, you know, jokey joke approach, he probably is like that when they're goofing around at the bar or in the backyard, wherever, you know, they go. I wish they could have shown us him then, but I do like that he was just like, his stock was slowly rising as the episodes went on, and he was getting more and more screen time. And it was, as we've been talking about it, I realized when he made that decision in the first part of the final to go with Jemmye, like that's when the Yes train started speeding up, and it did not slow down. And he even said at the end, one of the best things I think he said was, "I'll take on punks from other shows too." And I love that. Like,
I'm ready. Let's see you. Let's see you on the challenge.
I think that also, if we were to like do a hindsight is 2020 look at this, the moment when Aneesa decides to not vote the way that she had told Gisela to save Yes, that has to, like, now it stands out of like, wow, he had such a way of connecting with people that he made someone feel so comfortable with him to turn on one of her supposed best friends. Like, he has to be doing things in this game that we're not seeing. And so I think, like, in the hindsight, like, oh shit, that's a big moment in this game, especially like when he brings it up, like, you should have voted me in. But I do think that, like, if we were to go back and kind of reflect on it, that would be a turning point of like, okay, maybe Yes has a bit more going on behind the scenes, like a Michelle Fitzgerald type of thing that we don't really get to see it. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, all right, I'm understanding more now that we've seen the win and kind of like working backwards.
Yeah, and he just flipped the switch. You know, he was using his social game until it got him to the final. And then when it was time to perform physically, he stepped it up.
Yeah. He's like, I could run it again. I got more in the tank.
Yes. So, I mean, ultimately, I always love under the radar people, and I feel like they need to get more respect in the reality TV atmosphere, especially in competition reality TV. But I guess I think just more like, it's so crazy how that moment was so, I guess, integral in, I guess, the total outcome. Because imagine if he went into elimination and went home. You know, I guess we would have had, you know, Darrell winning, or maybe somebody else. Like, I don't, you know, who knows? But it's definitely crazy how that move for Aneesa really, you know, played into how the season turned out. And yeah, so we saw lots of excitement from Yes, you know, all day, give me that money. And then, you know, TJ's like, yes, right through there. Attaboy, and he's mentioned how great he feels. He's like 41, out of shape dad. He has more in the tank, and we talked about how he wants to take on the other punks. And you know, he was telling Darrell how much respect he has for him, because Darrell had just come up right behind him, and then, you know, we see Mark, and then we see Alton, and you know, he basically was like, I barely survived this, you know, 21-year-old game. And Kellyanne's super proud of herself. You know, she got first 3 times in a row, made some good friends, learned a lot about herself. Look at us at 30, 40, and 50. We're doing the same things that 20-year-olds are doing, but with a smile on our face. Jonna is crying, emotional, hugging Mark. You know, all the reasons, like, she's there. She's never been to a final, but she's finished. And not only did she finish, she killed it. Every step of the way, she had to dig deep. but she knows if you can push yourself, you can make it to the top of the mountain. We basically hear all of these things from everybody as they pass through. And Jemmye and Ruthie coming together. They're now BFFs apparently.
Yeah, I'm sure that Jemmye's gonna have Ruthie on her Patreon real soon.
Oh yeah.
So funny.
I love that someone called it out and I was like, "Oh, you guys are friends now?"
She's like, yeah, we're best friends. I was like, okay. Yeah. So, she learned a lot about from herself, and she knows that the growth you get from the final is worth it. And, we see some throwback clips of her. She's so thankful to be an all-star. And she mentions how amazing a season it is, and this is how the game should be played. And, Ruthie is thankful to God and the angels for letting her be a part of this because it's been good for her. And, no challenge is the same. No experience is the same. She feels so lucky. And she knows that, how everyone should feel so lucky to be part of this. I just thought that was so wholesome and sweet. So I just love that confessional. Big Easy. He's just like, to Aneesa, like, I wasn't going to leave you. I told you. This wasn't a layup final or season for him, but he knew they grew closer as a family, and he's walking out with new friends and old friends he hasn't seen forever. So he's ready for the third time to be the charm for him. And Aneesa is proud of herself. We talked a lot about her journey, and she's really wanted this and asked for this, and she got everything she's asked for. It was hell, but she pushed through it. It was hard. It's not for everyone. She's been around for 20 years for a reason, even though she hasn't won yet. This is a win for her today. And that's why collectively, overall, it's like, I appreciate watching her growth over time.
Yeah.
And I think that, she has that sort of legacy. And that's why I feel like, she and Darrell were, brought into that with the All-Stars to, bridge that connection too. And so I think it was just really great to see. And of course, TJ was proud of all of them. And he's like coming in a respectable third place with 24 points. It was a tie, Jonna and Kellyanne. And Darrell was second place with 29 points. And the champion of the Challenge All-Stars with 31 points was Yes. And we hear, like Carrie had mentioned, every day he would visualize coming home to his family, walking in the door, falling on the floor, telling them I won, and my kids hugging me, my wife piling on top, and I did all of that. And now he's getting the money. And Mark is leaving the Challenge All-Stars with a huge sense of gratitude, looking back on everyone, how it ended. It couldn't be more perfect.
He's still getting a paycheck from this, so he's fine.
I know. Yeah, I'm just like, you're okay. You're doing fine. This isn't too much of an issue. And like Yes talks about his family journey. He came from an immigrant mom, like who came from Thailand with $300 to her name, and just how meaningful this is to him. And he had according to his kids, had that 1 in 900 chance that was brought up earlier. He knew he had something to prove. And he's like, I've got the crown. Who wants it? So you guys have any final thoughts about this last couple of scenes here as people were coming to complete the final and TJ's announcement?
Yes. The one thing I would like to pick on these people for is they keep being like, oh, these 20-year-olds, your last winner was 40. Just saying. CT, 40 years old. Obviously, Amber is younger, but you have a 40-year-old man still winning the young guns version of it. So I know, obviously we're catering to not different, but maybe not the same age crowd when we're making these comments. So I just want to give CT some respect here when they're like, oh, these 20 CT's 40 and just won. So put some respect on my man's name.
You are so right, Carrie. And I think it's just probably they're just, generalizing and
I mean, I would be doing the same thing if I was them.
20-year-olds.
100%. It's just the fact that I would do a lot of things for CT. I'm
very proud of CT. And it was just very exciting considering all the stuff that went on.
I say this,
and I was happy for Amber more, especially considering her journey with Big Brother and just seeing her win her, rookie season. It was so exciting for me.
Yeah.
Another thing about the age I thought of when I was hearing them talk about these 20-year-olds on the challenge, some of the rookies this past season were in their mid to late 30s. Natalie Anderson, Lolo Jones, those people are not 21 years old.
Right.
So I think they need to redefine the terms they use to describe people's ages. Maybe it's more new school versus old school or something like that. Because with a 40-year-old winner, like you said, Yes is only 41. There's not that much of an age difference.
Yeah, there's literally months.
So
not a decade.
It's like
they're
the young
implying.
gun game.
Yeah.
And the other thing that stood out to me the most, this should come as no surprise to y'all, but how happy and proud I was of Jonna as the person who I was most surprised to see on this season.
Yeah.
That just proved me wrong episode after episode. And like I said earlier, she's not an athlete. She doesn't train for this show, hoping every time her phone rings, it's the challenge wanting to put her back on the show. Like Derek, like Kellyanne, like they train to be on the show. Darrell was just on it. And I think it's just so impressive to me and to hopefully everyone that she was able to be the top woman finalist, co-winner of this season, to finish the final as someone who's a recent mom. And that's, from what I've heard, that's really tough. Most women don't go from having a child to 7 months later climbing a mountain in a physical competition reality show away from their young children. And I just want to give so much respect to her and hope the challenge casts more people like her, because there's no moms with young children on the main show. Usually once they start having kids, they stop casting them. I mean, Teresa was on this one, but other than that,
if people care about spoilers, don't listen to my next sentence. Amanda's back this next season, and she just had a child within the last couple of years, I think, like 1 or 2 years. And there's also been people who have been bearing children while running a final, Melissa Reeves. So
yeah, good point.
But yeah, no, like Amanda's coming back this season and she has a child.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's usually the dads that come back after, like, or like, the kid was born the day before and then they're like, peace out, I'm going to Thailand. But never the moms. I agree with you. So Amanda is kind of our first one in a while with that aspect.
Yeah, and just like I said, so much respect for Jonna, as I never understood why she was on the season, but now I do. And she has turned me into a fan. Jonna all day. It's unbelievable that I feel this way.
I love that. So any last final thoughts about this episode? Next week we'll be going in to the reunion, which should be quite interesting to see. But I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts.
I hope we get season 2. That's what it comes down to. And I would love to see a few new faces. That's for sure. And by new, I mean old, but not too old, because 40 is not that old, but some OG old school faces. I would love that. But I heard it hasn't been picked up yet. Hopefully it does get picked up soon.
It should be.
And we get like
12. We want OTs.
Yes. And we want like 12 episodes at least.
Yes.
Not
Give
9.
us 12 episodes.
We don't need 6 months of episodes like the real challenge, but like 12 would be okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be like as great as the challenge is. We don't need a 6-month season. We need, reasonably sized, which we got a decent amount, but a couple episodes more I think would be sufficient.
Yeah, because you heard people like Derek say, like, I want to go into an elimination. Like, I want to do that. Like, we had how many people in this final not see an elimination? Quite a few. So I would love her a little bit longer so we get a little bit more trials and tribulations, but that and equalize the final or give men and women money. Hopefully there's enough of like feedback on that they make a change on it, especially because the cast is being pretty vocal about it as well. So hopefully that happens.
Well, wonderful discussion we had here today. So before we go, I'm going to have everyone plug their socials and what they are up to. So Jason, tell everybody where to find you.
You can find me on Twitter @TheRealJO, talking about the current NBA playoffs, my hometown Dallas Mavericks, who are going to win tomorrow night against the Clippers. And I also want to wish a happy early anniversary to my parents celebrating tomorrow. Even though they're not watching or will hear this, I want all of our viewers to know.
Happy anniversary to Jason's parents. That's
How
so
long have they
wonderful.
been married for?
Tomorrow will be their 39th anniversary.
Wow, 39
awesome.
years. That's a long time.
Yeah, thanks.
Carrie, where can people find you?
I am at KGD26 telling you how I'm trying to get fired from work accidentally. Dude, I said, I don't know if you guys saw this, but yesterday I said I hate this fucking shit while I was not muted. But I wasn't even talking about my job. Someone asked me what I was doing this weekend. And she won't listen to this. I'm going to my best friend's picnic, but like I'm driving to and from Milwaukee from Chicago. And it's like, I'm going to be a good friend, but like I'm going for like 6 hours. Like that's 3 hours of driving for 6 hours of being somewhere. So that's why I said that. And then I'm like, oh my God, here goes my job. But anyway,
Cool.
something new I'm starting this evening is Leandro and I are starting a Real Housewives roundup. So I am a new fan of the Housewives. I know that Geneva is a Housewives fan, so we're hoping to rope her in to come talk to us sometime soon, putting her on the spot right now while other people can hear it, so she can't tell me no.
Oh my
You with
gosh.
Geneva?
Well, so in terms of Housewives, I watch Potomac, Atlanta, and Salt Lake City, which are all great.
I'm in season 2 right now of Potomac because Leandro told me that's probably the next one coming back.
Yeah.
Like within the last 2-ish months, I think I watched like 25 seasons of total between New York and Beverly Hills. So I've watched maybe like 3-ish months, but so I'm a new fan of this, and we don't really have any coverage of it. So we're going to start it and definitely have people coming through. So that starts tonight. We'll be talking about Beverly Hills and New York. So if you are a Housewives fan, come on. I'm not even like, I can't even say I'm a Housewives fan. That show just entertains me. Like, I don't think I like the show. I think I'm just entertained by the show. Like, it's an enigma to me. I don't understand it, but I'm ready to talk about it. And that's coming up tonight. At some point, you'll see tweets about it. So definitely come and check us out if you are a Housewives fan.
Wonderful. And y'all can follow me at PeaceLoveJen on Twitter. I tweet about reality TV and other random things in life. And I'm sure I'll be on some podcasts here or around somewhere. So you can definitely continue to follow me for that. In addition, we want you to help us grow, help support us, because we want to reach more people, share our perspectives. Although we are called the Silent Podcast, we are anything but silent, and provide our, fun perspectives and thoughts and opinions on, shows that are out and about today. So we would love if you can follow us on social media, especially Twitch. We really, really would love to grow on Twitch. So if you can follow us there, that would be amazing. We are close to becoming an affiliate, so we would love to help get some support for that push. You can follow us at silent_podcast for tweets and updates about our content, and you can subscribe to us here on YouTube as well and on Twitch as well for more content. In addition to talking about reality TV, we talk about a variety of different content. So scripted TV, anime, movies, especially Disney Channel original movies as well. So we are bringing a variety of stuff here. And if there's anything that you're interested in seeing, let us know in the comments below. Definitely turn on your notifications on our social media platforms for updates to know when we go live. Thank you all so much for supporting us and for watching us. We will be back next week to discuss the reunion. So we are not done yet. But thank you all so much. And we hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Bye, everybody.